So in the last class, we started with Docker. So it's a DevOps tool. So what is this Docker? Docker is a containerization software. So what is the meaning of containerization? The process of packaging the application code and application dependencies, means softwares, as a single unit. As a single unit for execution is called as containerization. Right? So what Docker is going to take care? It's going to take care of all software installations required to run the application. So what Docker is going to do? Docker is going to execute the application as a Docker container. Now, the Docker architecture is what we are going to do. We are going to create one Dockerfile. What is this Dockerfile? It contains the instructions. Contains what? The instructions to build the Docker image. And so this Docker file, it's going to build the Docker image. What is this Docker image? It contains the package of code and dependencies. Then once the Docker image is ready, we have to push it into the Docker registry. So what is Docker registry? Used to store Docker images, and that is going to run in the container, right? And right, this introduction we have seen in the last class. Today, let us see how to make use of this Docker. So still the problem is present in my Amazon account. So I'm going to show how to work with Windows. Okay, I'm unable to create new account also on my laptop. Now, so the commands will remain same. Either it may be Linux virtual machine, the commands will remain same. Now, let us see how to download Docker on Windows. For this, open search engine like Google and you can say Docker download. Let me show this. Docker download. Okay. The first link what you are getting from this docker.com, open this link. This is the URL you can use to download Docker on our operating system. Okay. Here in this one, go to this developers. Under developers, you can find documentation. Remember this. In this page, go to developers. Under that, you can see documentation. Click here. Click on documentation. Once we click on documentation, here you can find get Docker. What you can find? Get Docker. This one. Click on this. Click on this, get Docker. Then this Docker, what you want to use, you can download this Docker desktop for Mac, download Docker desktop for Windows, Linux like this. So in our case, I'm choosing Windows. Select this. Select this Docker desktop for Windows. Once we select here, we need to choose which Docker desktop for Windows x86 or 64, or you can go with ARM. So this one, in my case, my system is x86-64. I'm choosing this. Click on this. So once you click on this, it's going to download the software. It's going to download the software. So what are the file it has downloaded? We need to install that. See here, it's downloading. I'm just canceling. Already I've done this. So we have to just run this application. It's a simple installation. It is what? A simple installation. Okay. Then remember one point. Remember one point. So once we open this page, what we have to choose? Developers. Under this developers, you can go to documentation. Documentation. Under documentation, you can click get Docker. Get Docker. Then you can go with Docker desktop for Windows. Docker desktop for Windows. Okay. Then next one, you can choose Docker desktop for Windows x86 64. Okay, click to download. Click to download. Once we download this, install, run the downloaded file. Simple words to say, run the downloaded file. After successful installation, restart. After successful installation, restart the system. Restart the system. So this is the main reason why I'm unable to show this, because it will ask you to restart the system. Okay, right? Then once the installation is completed, how to verify? To verify the Docker, open command prompt, and in your prompt, you can use the command docker-v to check the version of your Docker. See it like this. Open command prompt, and you can check the command docker-v. That's it. So it's going to show the version for us 28.5.1. Right? So if this command is working, means our installation is successful. Clear up to here, all of you? Any questions? No. Let us see how to Dockerize our Spring Boot application. Dockerizing Spring Boot application. So for this, let us create one Spring Boot application. You can go with any Spring Boot application. Create a Spring Starter project in STS. Go with the name. I'm going with the Spring Boot Docker app. There. Type Maven, Java version 17. Then group, subgroup. Then artifact, Spring Boot Docker app. Then package, let me say com dot spring boot dot docker. Then click next. Add the following project dependency. That is Spring Web. And click finish. A simple Spring Boot application we are developing here. It's mainly to understand about how to do Dockerization of our Spring Boot application. So same steps you can follow for any application. Any Spring Boot application, you can follow the same step. Let us develop this. Create one Spring Starter project. File, new Spring Starter project. I'm going with the name Spring Boot Docker app. Type Maven, Java version 17, group com.projtech. The package com.springboot.docker. Some package name. Then click next. Here we need to add the dependency Spring Web. Then click on finish button. Create a REST controller class. Let me say some controller. Your wish, any controller can create controller in this package. In com.springboot.docker package. Create controller. Let me read the code here directly. Create controller.java. Under the package, right click on package, it's in new, class grade controller. Now, so mark it as a REST controller. How to mark it? At the rate REST controller. Then create a method here, public string greet. So in this method, we are going to return something like welcome to Dockerizing a Spring Boot application. Okay, then go with get mapping at the rate get mapping. So simple, a Spring Boot application we are developing. So you can even take your existing Spring Boot application also. What are the Spring Boot project you have created? The complete project also we can take. Okay, there. Now, once this is ready, once our application is ready, our next step is we need to build the project. Means we need to do the packaging. We have to do the packaging. So packaging means what? We have to create the jar file for our project. What we need to do? We need to create the jar file for the project. How to create a jar file? See our folder, we are working in this folder. I've created Docker. This is the folder. Under this, you can see target, Maven tool. I'm discussing about Maven tool. So in this target, we have to create the jar file of our project. Then by default, what will be the name of the jar file? What will be the name of the jar file? By default, what it takes? This one. Spring Boot Docker app snapshot.jar. That is the name what it is going to take. So we want to go with our own name for our jar file. So what we should do in build tag, in between build tag, we have to mention the final name. So I'm going with the name Spring Boot Docker app. What is the name of the jar file we want to create? Spring Boot Docker app. Okay. So our next step is, let me copy this code. Update our next step. Update pym.xml file to change the jar file name. Jar file name in pym.xml file. In between build tag. In between build tag, what we have to use? Final name. Final name we are going with Spring Boot Docker app. Okay, there. Now package the project. How to package the project? Means I want to create a jar file for this project. Means what we have to do? Right click on project and say run as Maven build. Run as what? Maven build. Now in the goals, go with the clean and package. So if what is the meaning of clean? It's going to remove all the existing jar files, deletes target folder and recreates the target folder. Clean package. Now say run. Right? See here, build a success. Now see our folder. In the target folder, see the jar file got created. Spring Boot Docker app. Okay. So that is the need of going with packaging. So package the project. How to package? Right click on Spring Boot Docker app. Then run as Maven build. Run as Maven build. In goals, go with the clean package. Click run. Click run. which creates Spring Boot Docker app .jar file in target folder. Right? Now, once this jar file is created, now our application is ready. The application is ready. Now, what I need to do now, the next step, we need to create a Docker file. What is the need of creating Docker file? Once you create Docker file, what it contains? What is the main need of going with the Dockerization? Containerization. Means it contains all our code and even the software details. It's a combination of our code and software details along with the versions. So that is the meaning of Docker file. Right? So now the next step is very, very important. Create a Docker file in the project. How to create is right click on Spring Boot Docker app. This is our project name. Then say new file. Then new file. Go with the name of the file. Go with the name as Docker file. Remember, note the file name should be Docker file only. Case sensitive. So when I was learning on this, I've done a mistake here. I've kept capital F. So because of that, lot of issue I faced. I don't know what is the reason for this. Okay. So that's the reason I'm giving specific point to you. The file name, whatever we are giving, should be Docker file only. Docker file only. It is case sensitive. Don't give capital F here. Okay. Then what Docker file is? Docker file contains the set of instructions to create it or to build a Docker image. Dockerfile contains a set of instructions to build a Docker image. So I'm going with the name Dockerfile. No extension. Should not have any extension. Here, right click on project and say new file. Just to say new file. Go with the name Dockerfile. Small f. Say finish. Here we have to provide the instructions like what softwares and what is the name of the jar file. So for that we have to say like this. From OpenJDK. So what is the version of it? 17 version. I want to go with Java 17 version. So whichever the version you want to mention, you can mention here. From OpenJDK 17. Okay. There. Next. Now we are having the jar file, right? Jar file got created. This jar file, I should give it to your Docker. So we have to go with the location of Docker like this. Copy, capital case only. Copy, target slash. What is the name of our jar file? Spring Boot Docker app .jar. What is the name of the jar files here? Spring Boot Docker app present in target folder. Okay, target slash Spring Boot Docker app jar. Then where I should copy user slash app. This is the folder where it is going to create our Docker image. The next one, work directory user slash app. This is the work directory. Then entry point. Entry point means the command to run your application. Entry point. How to run a Java application? Java. And since it is a jar file, we have to say -jar So whenever you want to run a jar file, we have to say java-jar and the name of the jar file. What is the name of the jar file? Spring Boot Docker .jar. So this is the entry point to run our application. That's it. So this is our Docker file. Just to type this code in Dockerfile. Clear up to here? Any questions?
No, Raj.
No.
No. Now the next step. Our next step is now we need to build the Docker image, right? So now everything is ready. Now the next step is build the Docker image. Open folder in command prompt where the Docker file is present. Okay, where Docker file is present. Open command prompt where Docker file is present. In our case, it is our Spring Boot Docker app folder. So where the file is created? In this one. Under the Spring Boot Docker app, we are having this Docker file, right? So this is the location where your Docker file is present. So just open this in the command prompt. CMD. Right? So we have to just open our project folder. Remember, we have to just open our project folder. Project folder, simple words to say. Okay. Now we are in this project folder. So let me give this. In this folder, so to check what images are present, okay. So if you use this command to check the Docker images present, or you can say to check for the Docker images, use the below command. So what is the command? You can simply use here Docker images. You have to use which command? Docker images. Check it here. Docker images. Okay, we have to run the Docker desktop. See here, we are having see Docker desktop. Once we install, we get this icon. Run the Docker desktop. Run the Docker desktop application. Then once we run this, then now come to this command prompt and check for the Docker images. See here. So okay, I've already created, right? So already I've created this Docker image. So for checking purpose, how to remove the Docker images? You can use this. First, we have to stop this. I'll provide all the commands to you. Docker RM. Sorry, first we have to stop it. Provide the Docker image name. Okay. Docker system clone -a. Yes. Right. Now let me say Docker images. See here, we are not having any Docker images. Okay, we are not having any Docker images. So what command we have to use to check for the Docker images? Just to check, use the command Docker images. This is the command which is going to show the images which are present. Okay. Now the next step is we have to build the Docker image now. Now we are not having any Docker images. Now we have to build the Docker image. To build the Docker image, build the Docker image. So the command what we have to use is in your project folder, we have to use the command docker build -t and the image name. What is the image you want to create here? The image name. So you can say Spring Boot Docker app. Spring Boot Docker app. So what I should do? We have to use what command here? To build the Docker image. This is our image name. So remember, this is our image name. So Docker build -t Spring Boot Docker app, and which folder it has to take? Current folder, dot symbol. We have to use dot symbol. Okay. So use this command Docker build -t. I'm going with the image name Spring Boot Docker app dot. Press enter key. It's building. Remember, this is our image name. Docker image name. It will take some small time to build the image. So once you create Docker image, once you are having image now, we can run on any platform. We can use it what we can run on any platform. That's the main beauty of Dockerization. Done. Now check here. Now check for Docker images. So once we use this command, we can see the Docker image. It has got created. So 9 seconds ago. So now the image is ready. Check for the command again. To check for the Docker images, again we can use which command? Once the command is executed, you can check for Docker images. Okay, now it's going to show this image name. This output will be displayed for us. Once we use this command, this output will be displayed. So this is our repository. Okay, the Docker image name, and this is our ID, Docker ID. Okay, this is the output what it is going to show for us. Now, once the image is created, now we have to run the Docker image. Now I can run this Docker image on any place. So if I give this image file, we can use it on any operating system, any platform. Any platform we can use this to run the application. So the next step to run Docker image. How to run the Docker image? At your prompt, use the command docker run -d -p 8080. This is the host port number. It can be anything, any port number we can use. And 8080 is our container port, means our Spring Boot application port number, the Tomcat server port number. Then provide the Docker image name. We have to give this Docker image name. That's it. So this is going to run. Okay. Now let us use this command. Docker run -d -p the host port number colon our container port number, means our Spring Boot application port number, and take this image name or image ID. We can even take image name, or we can even take the ID also. Then press enter key. That's it. Now to see the Dockers which are running, the running containers, can use the command docker ps. See here, it's giving the Docker images which is running. Now to check whether our application is working or not, open browser and type the URL http://localhost:8080. That's it. See, are you getting the output? Welcome to Dockerizing a Spring Boot app. So what are the things we have given here? This message we are getting on our browser. Here, up to here, any questions? Okay, so what is the command? To check running Docker containers. The command what we use is docker ps. Docker ps. Now, once we run this Docker image, then open browser and type the following URL http://localhost:8080. Clear the application, all of you. You can take any Spring Boot application and you can develop this. Okay. Let me go with the commands here. Docker commands. Let me list out Docker commands. You can practice this. So what are the commands we are having? Docker image. Docker image. All these things you can use at your terminal or command prompt. Docker image. What is the use of this? Display Docker images available in our machine. Docker pull. We are having one more command. Docker pull. Download Docker image. Docker pull is for download Docker image. Okay. So at your prompt or terminal, we can say Docker pull the image name. We're having the next commands. Docker run. I use this command is to run Docker image. To run Docker image. Okay. Then, so at your prompt, you can use Docker run, and you can provide the image name or image ID. Then next one, Docker ps, to display running Docker containers. to display the running Docker containers. The next one, Docker start, Docker start to start the Docker container. So you can use like this. At your prompt, we can say Docker start, and you can provide the container ID. Container ID. See here. What is this container ID? This one. This is our container ID. When you say Docker PS now, we'll be knowing what are the containers we are having. Okay. So to start the container, we have to use this command Docker start and provide the container ID. Docker stop. Docker stop to stop Docker container. What command we can use like this? Docker stop container ID. Next command we are having Docker RM. Docker RM to remove stopped Docker container. Remove stopped Docker container. We can remove only stopped Docker container. Okay. So before you remove, we have to stop it first. Okay. So at your prompt, you can say Docker RM. Provide your container ID. Then next one, we are having Docker RMI to remove the Docker images. To remove the Docker image. So at your prompt, you can say Docker RMI. Provide the image name or image ID. Provide the image name or ID. Then next we are having Docker system prune -a. This command to remove all stopped containers and unused Docker images. So to remove all stopped container and unused Docker images. So just use this command to remove all the things at your prompt or terminal. Right? So these are the commands what we are going to use in our applications. So either it may be Linux or whatever the operating system it may be, these commands are same. Clear all of you about Dockerization, about this Docker tool? Practice this compulsory. So in order to work on this, remember we have to download Docker on your local system. So did I mention that to work with this, first of all, we have to run the Docker desktop application. Right. I've given that details.